Hello everyone, welcome back to Cluster B Milkshake. I am your host, along with support puppet, Mr. Chicken. Yes, it's gonna give you the chicken demon eyes if you don't listen. All right, today we're gonna talk about a book that I am reading called Unmasking Narcissism. This is by Mark Ettensohn. He is a doctor of psychology. This book is rad. It talks about the fucking shit I talk about, man. It's and the book ain't big, okay? So you guys can go get it, and it's not expensive either. And this is a book that I'm reading that I feel like this person sees me. This person sees me for all what's on the inside. And what's great about it is he talks about grandiose and vulnerable narcissism and how they both can, mix, all right? So, because we're not just one or the other, we can switch back and forth. So when I'm reading this shit, it's going through, grandiosity stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I do that. And then he starts talking about the vulnerable shit, and I'm like, fuck, I do that too. Okay, so he's getting it all together. He also talks about why we do the things that we do. So I just want to read you a couple pages to give you a little taste to see if this is, something that you better fucking get, because, to keep it as basically an encyclopedia shit to look up when you're dealing with certain things, so you don't take things so personally, okay, when dealing with us. All right? So I'm going to start off with the core of narcissism. At its core, narcissism is about managing self-esteem. If all goes well, people emerge from childhood and adolescence with an internal supply of positive feelings about themselves, using them to get through difficult times and disappointments. The positive feelings comes from years of interactions with important caregivers and peers during development. There are many ideas about the sorts of development experience that contribute to narcissism. That being said, throughout the literature on the topic, there is a basic agreement that narcissism occurs when very important needs for care are neglected during critical periods of development. Children can easily be taken advantage of by caregivers. Some theorists write about caregivers who use their young children to gratify their own narcissistic needs, using them as magical mirrors that only reflect flattering images. I did this with my golden child, first son. I always got a positive reflection from him. And with the second child, my daughter, who very much reminded me of me when I was younger, it was very unconscious, seeing this. I would always get a trigger response because she would not give me what I wanted. She was the one that challenged, okay, me and my ex-husband. Others write about failures of empathetic attunement. If you've ever confided in a friend and felt that he just wasn't really listening, then you know what failures in empathetic attunement feel like. Now, I can fake this shit. Inside I'm dying and like stabbing my fucking, eyeballs out, that I'm looking at you and paying attention and shit, because I don't give a fuck. But I know that I have to do this so I can get what I want from you, was you thinking that I'm a good friend or person or, family member, whatever. Narcissists grow up feeling the need to be just so. They need to be beautiful, smart, talented, respected, admired, and high achieving. Their sense of self is based on beauty and achievement. The appearance-based sense of self is sometimes called a false self. The false self represents the person that the narcissist feels they need to be worthy of care. Yes, the person it seems others want them to be. Yes. So I wasn't liked for me as a child. I needed to conform. This goes back to me doing the same thing to my daughter, okay? By my mother. Okay, so sometimes the experience that shapes a person's narcissism are obvious and undeniable. Sometimes they are subtle. A professor once asked his class to answer the question, what causes mental illness? The students wrote the kinds of answers you might expect: trauma, abuse, neglect, poverty. No, he replied, everyday interactions cause mental illness. This is like when, I would say complex PTSD is having, PTSD, which is you had it all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. So if you were ever like feeling just the subtle feelings of you not being heard, dismissed, stonewalling, just being ignored, not feeling emotionally connected, those little things will contribute to your childhood trauma and will be reawakened when you are with somebody who did that to you, in the adult world, okay? It's the ghost from your past coming up from the graveyard, motherfuckers. All right. Let's see. Even the smallest interaction, when repeated 100 times or 1,000 times throughout a person's life, can be a tremendous influence on that person's mental health. Yes. He says, putting it all together. The myth of Narcissus is a tragedy. The poor guy never really had a chance. He was tricked into falling in love with an ideal image of himself. The image that could never love him back because it wasn't real in the first place. Likewise, narcissists are tricked at an early age into believing that they need to be perfect to be loved. Yes, and I would punish my mother for not thinking that I'm perfect. She wanted me to be her vision of the perfect child, and I always rebelled against that. I think that was, my entitlement coming out. I just wanted to punish her for that. One prominent writer on the topic calls narcissists used children. When children are exploited for their ability to gratify parents, caregivers, and peers, they grow up thinking that it is the primary purpose in life. While other children learn that their feelings are validated and understood by caregivers, narcissists learn to shut down feelings that aren't desirable to others. While other children get realistic feedback from caregivers about their talents and abilities, narcissists are inflated by caregivers' unrealistic expectations. While others grow up with a sense of self that is based on authentic feelings, narcissists may make do with the false self that is based on images of perfection, beauty, and success. Underneath that, there is very little sense of an authentic self. What is the authentic self? Everyone has one. It is the wellspring of joy and sorrow. The authentic self can be seen in a genuine smile of a small child or a person's deep sobbing at a loss of a loved one. A life lived in connection with this part of oneself is inherently satisfying. The authentic self tells you what you like and dislike. It's the part of you use when you follow your gut or listen with your heart. Well-adjusted people are raised to connect with this part of themselves and to build an identity based on the experiences that flow from it. Narcissists, on the other hand, learn at an early age to substitute a false self in place of the authentic self. So we've been doing this bullshit since we were little. This is who we believe that we are, this fake fuck. Okay? So when you guys say shit like, I just gonna rip that mask off, it's just like, okay, so you are going to abuse me. This is my viewpoint. You're going to abuse me, rip off the only person I believe that I am. Thank you. Thanks. All right. It is terrifying to lack an authentic self. You became prone to anxiety and depression. It's like living in a house built over a bottomless pit. The floor is rickety and it is in constant danger of collapse. Wouldn't you always be worried, always checking and measuring and asking for reassurance? Narcissists live in existential, did I say that right? Terror of the floor. Their false selves caving in. Existential, sorry. I ain't too smart now. All right. Whether a narcissist is grandiose or vulnerable depends on how defended they are against this terror. The psychological defenses of grandiose narcissists are strong and intact. They experience very little distress or anxiety. For them, the floor feels pretty solid. In fact, grandiose narcissists may have become so fused with the false self that they may not even be consciously aware of the danger lurking beneath them. For vulnerable narcissists, the floor feels paper thin. They may have even fallen through a few times, just barely catching themselves in time. They are sensitive to the slightest creak and the smallest disturbance. They are anxious, scared, and need constant reassurance that everything is not about to collapse. For them, their defenses against the terror of not having an authentic self have broken down. Sometimes the defenses were never strong in the first place. The reasons for this aren't known for sure. However, my own research into this question supports the idea that experience of bullying or rejection by peers during childhood may have caused the defense of vulnerable narcissists to be weaker than those of grandiose. And bullied by your fucking parents too, right? So I switch back and forth. I'll have moments of feeling that, you know, I can take on the fucking world, and other times where I'm fucking a loser and blah, blah, blah. But my vulnerable part, I do not expose that shit to the world. I do here, but fuck y'all if you ever think that I'm going to be like using any victimhood whatsoever to get my needs met. I find that fucking pathetic. Sorry, my cluster B fams. This is just me being truthful. Any emotional dumpers or anyone who is trying to get attention and shit from being broken, I find fucking disgusting. But I think it's because that's like me hating my little self because I couldn't defend myself when I was younger. And the vulnerable narcissist, like I said, we do both, but the one who's predominantly, vulnerable is going to use that weakness to get their needs met. Fucking hate that shit. Okay. Anyways, and be very vigilant of when you see emotional dumpers, okay? You, with your compassion and care and your empathy, you will put on the superhero fucking, flippity flip flop behind you cape and want to rescue them from themselves. Over time, you're going to see that you cannot rescue these people. And that is when you're conflicted to abandon them. You're going to think of yourself as a monster to abandon someone who is broken. But guess what? If you don't save yourself, I'm taking you down. I'm taking you down with me, and we're both going to drown. Okay? Save yourself. All right. Hope that was helpful. Don't forget, Unmasking Narcissism. Okay? Marky Mark and the psychological fresh bunch. Have a great day. Namaste.